Live from Austin, Texas, it's Night Shift. This week's guests, District 6 Austin City Council member Jimmy Flanagan. From the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, its Chief Operating Officer Rachel Blair. Visit Austin's own Director of Music Marketing, Omar Lozano. Musical guest, Henry Invisible, the one-man funk band. Community updates from our Executive Director, Pat Bukta. With your host, that's me, Nakia. And now, it's time for Night Shift, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, right here at Austin, Texas Musicians. Hey, everybody, welcome to Night Shift. It's Wednesday, it's 7 o'clock. Clearly, I'm in some kind of Indian summer Austin situation right now. I just wanted to start out tonight by giving a quick update. Today, the Music Commission met. They did hear from city staff about the $1.5 million disaster relief funds created by City Council. And they are moving along fairly quickly. And we heard from a lot of members of the local music community encouraging staff to consider working with a third party outside of the city, such as Music Cares, etc. And staff did give us a pretty thorough presentation in that Music Commission meeting. You can always go over to austintexas.gov, scroll through to the ATXN network and look at the archives of those meetings, as well as city council meetings that happen. We encourage you always to find out about the meetings in advance when we tell you about them, and then sign up to speak if you have something to say, because that is a big part of what Austin, Texas Musicians is all about, is really encouraging our musicians in the community to take ownership and form, a real connection with your music commissioner, with your city council member. Find out what district you live in. You got to get on the map. And we'll be talking more about getting on the map real soon. We're going to be launching our new website and a lot of other stuff going on. I also wanted to take a few moments to just say that, a couple of nights ago, I guess there was this anonymous letter or email that had been sent out to a bunch of agents and booking folks and I guess talent buyers, venues, and some folks tagged us asking if that was us. And by us, I mean Austin, Texas Musicians. And I just want to reiterate that, we are a professional organization, and we would absolutely never send an anonymous letter like that. We believe in, suiting up and showing up and speaking up. And we do so in a professional way. And that would never be the case. And if, folks out there are watching this, just remember that, we have a lot of musicians in the city. We have a lot of music people in the city, and we're all in this together. Right now, we do need to be talking about what's going to come next, but we need to do so in a constructive way. And, hiding behind a blank anonymous email isn't really going to help. That's, just not the way it works. So with that being said, speaking of the way things work, let's get our first guest in here. He is the District 6 Austin City Council member, Jimmy Flanagan. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi, Nakia. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. And, I know that I've got a list of questions that I want to ask, but I would be remiss if I didn't start by saying, what about that double Shantae you stay?
I got to say, my boyfriend, Zach, totally called it. We, of course, watched RuPaul's Drag Race religiously, and halfway through the lip sync, my boyfriend, Zach, was like, Ru's going to keep both of them. He's totally going to do it. And he was right, and he kept both, and I was glad to see it, because all the queens left on that show, I got to say, I kind of love them all.
Me too. I think they've done a really great job this season with the casting. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about first was, the cancellation of South by Southwest was really kind of the shot heard around the world in the music industry and the entertainment industry. When that happened, it sent a ripple effect across the world, and a lot of people really began to think, "Oh my God, this could be serious." The reason, of course, is because South by Southwest really helps to bring millions upon millions of dollars of tourism economy or tourism money into our economy. And as soon as that cancellation happened, probably within about an hour of South by Southwest being canceled, you called us and other local music community members into your office and began working towards solutions for our music community. Could you describe to me why it's so important that to invest in our music community?
Well, I agree with you, Nakia. The cancellation of South by Mayor Adler was definitely heard around the world, and I think in hindsight will be seen as one of the key decisions made globally to take this pandemic seriously. So all credit to Mayor Adler for making that very difficult call. Then the very next call was me to folks like you trying to figure out what the fallout would be, what the economic challenges would be faced by our musicians, by our venues, by our restaurants, by all of the many folks that thrive on this tourism ecosystem. And I always like to remind Austinites, South by Southwest is not it's not just about making a ton of money in 2 weeks. I mean, it's a little bit about that, but it's also about all of the venues and restaurants and live music and assets that live in Austin year round that make a lot of their money those 2 weeks. So for those 2 weeks where maybe you're not an Austinite that shows up at South by, you get to enjoy an unbelievably vibrant cultural community as a result. And so its cancellation has a lot of knockoff effects. So that was our initial work the night that Mayor Adler canceled South by. It was actually the City Hall Public Art Gallery. And we had our office open for the art that we had up on the walls, but we were closing my office door and having emergency meetings about South by just that night.
Yeah. And, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people, who don't live here, especially that are friends of mine, who don't really know the music business or even the entertainment industry that well, said, well, it can't be that bad. It's just 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of stuff. And, I try to let people understand this, that so many of our music venues, our music businesses, our restaurants, they depend on those few weeks of business that lead up to South by, during South by, and about the week or so after. That really helps them keep the doors open all year round, and so on the one hand, that's a little scary, right? Because we see that where that leads us in the instant that it's gone. It's like, oh, what are we going to do now? Especially as musicians and the music community that we live in, so many of the things that exist in Austin that are unique to Austin, like Ham and Sims, and Black Fret, they all depend on those live music venues to be able to host them for their events, to fundraise as well. And when those go away, then wait, what happens to those folks? What happens to our service providers? Because when musicians can no longer be insured or get their mental health needs met, et cetera, then they're just going to come right back to the city or the county to get those services, because we can't afford them otherwise. And so,
well, and I think we're learning. I mean, we knew that the music economy in Austin was fragile. Right. I don't think that was a surprise, no. But I think what we're learning as a community is that the entire economy is fragile.
Yeah.
And we're only 6 weeks, 8 weeks in to shut down.
Longer.
How many decades have passed in the last week? I don't know if I'm grayer now. I was already pretty gray.
I know,
but I feel grayer now than when it started. Yeah. But we're gonna have to rethink a lot. And I think, as difficult and painful as this process has been, and as disruptive as it's been, and to the 50 plus folks who have passed away and their families, as heart-wrenching as this pandemic has been and might continue to be, if not worse, it's also a chance for us to rethink how this works structurally. How might we structure this better, given a moment to kind of rethink? One example of that, we were talking to some music venues this week who were saying, we'd love to be able to do some capital improvements, but we could never close the bar long enough to really redo the bathrooms.
Right.
Okay, well, now's the time, but they don't have the money to do it. So what does it look like to take this opportunity? We've seen other folks talk about that with road construction. Is this an opportunity to rebuild infrastructure that would otherwise be full every day? So there are those things that we are exploring, and we have to figure out how to come out of this experience stronger than we went into it.
Well, speaking of things that will hopefully make us stronger, tell us how Item 91 came about, what your goal was with it when you created it, and how do you feel like it's being fulfilled now?
So that night that South by was canceled, as we were convening music industry folks and reaching out to restaurants and to venues, we were already starting to kind of conceive of what a resolution would look like on the council agenda to direct the staff to start to develop programs around economic support. Of course, it was 7 days later that we were instituting stay-at-home orders. Right. So it very rapidly expanded into a more general economic response resolution. By the time it was adopted in March, it created a laundry list of activities that we wanted to see the staff start to develop, start to roll out. And then in the subsequent weeks, council members, other colleagues that I share the dais with, brought out versions of that and pieces of it. We've been able to roll out with Mayor Pro Tem Delia Garza. We rolled out the Rise Fund, which is more of an individual response element. Of course, the staff brought out the Economic Injury Bridge Loan Program for small businesses, which we're expanding on tomorrow. Of course, there was stuff done for musicians and artists, and all these little pieces kind of built under this framework that we initiated right as the crisis began.
Yes. And you are still bringing things that have to do with that same item right now, including your most recent item, which is item 23, which is up for vote tomorrow.
Yes, so we've got item 23 on the council agenda tomorrow. Council members Alter, Harper Madison, Ellis, and the mayor are joining me in that effort. And it does a couple of really important things to help stabilize our economy. It creates the Clear Fund, which will expand upon support for our small and local businesses, which could include music venues. And we've been talking to music venues about that component of it specifically. It also includes money specifically for businesses to cover the costs to comply with these new orders. So if there are businesses who need to buy extra masks, if they need to have additional equipment, if they need to have additional staff, they can get those costs recovered if it's related to this, to what it takes to open. There's a fund related to childcare costs, because there's a lot of working families who are going to find it very hard to work if the kids aren't in school, because the schools haven't reopened. So we've got money in there for that. And then Councilmember Alter led on the effort for the Anchor Fund, which is to help small nonprofits make sure that they also survive this economic crisis.
That would be very nice for our friends at HAM and Sims and some of these other nonprofits as well, to look at and see what they would qualify for that. We are also a nonprofit, but we're a 501c4 nonprofit, so I don't know if we would qualify for that or not. However, I just want to thank you for putting in that time and trying to find ways to help musicians and music venues and music businesses. It is, as you mentioned earlier, especially now that we are seeing this big push to get us, back to work and reopen the economy, musicians especially, and the many, many people that support us in sound, in lights, in servers and bartenders. We are the folks that are, kind of the last. We're the first people to get cut, and then the last to come back to work. And many of our musicians we're seeing in our Facebook group who are saying, well, my part-time job is opening up, so I either have to go back to work, or, do I lose my job? Do I not lose my job? I don't feel comfortable going. So there's so many uncertainties right now, and every little bit of assistance will help but I cannot say enough that so far it's, I fear that it's not enough. I fear that if the federal government really doesn't step up and really figure out a way to help save small businesses like our music venues specifically, that we're going to wake up this time in a year and we're going to be basically in Austin without music, and that is a real reality that we could face.
Well, I mean, I want to say very clearly, live music is part of the soul of this city, this amazing, vibrant, creative city. And we can't afford to lose it, or we'll lose a large part of what Austin is. Austin, Texas Musicians has been such a great partner to elevate that voice with the council and with my office, and to develop these programs. And the council is unified. The city is unified. We are not going to lose music in this community. But you are right. The federal government, the state government, they can sometimes be blunt objects. They can put money into buckets. They can, develop these high-level programs, but they kind of miss the meat of individual community need. We don't have to go into some pretty big dysfunction that's happening at the federal government, especially. Even a minimally functional federal government would be pretty cool right now.
Sure.
But nonetheless, when these resources come into this community, this council, this mayor, myself, we are 100% committed to make sure that music and art and that live music not just continues to exist, but I look at this as an opportunity to really build a stronger foundation for music in this city.
That is true. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. That is definitely my vision for what comes next as well. And I am excited about getting back on stage and performing again, which leads me to my next question, which is, we know that you're a big fan of live music. And I wanted to know, what was your last live show that you enjoyed in Austin before the pandemic hit?
Well, I do find myself in seeing a lot of live performance. The week between canceling South by and the stay-at-home orders, that week, my boyfriend and I saw Trixie Mattel perform at the Paramount, which was awesome. That was, I think, a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then the next night, we saw Aladdin at Bass, which was their last performance before the stay-at-home.
That's true. And did you know that many of the musicians who tour with that show are actually Austin musicians, hired,
I believe it,
and booked by Mike Mordecai, who's a longtime Austin musician and music business owner. And he sent me a list of the number of people from that production. I forgot the exact number, but it was pretty high. And their losses from that were so tremendous. And folks forget that. They forget that live music isn't just, what's happening at Saxon Pub or the Mohawk, that there's musicians who are performing in the symphony, the orchestra, the opera, Broadway shows that are touring, all of these other things that happen. Many times those shows, when they come to town, hire local musicians to do the job, right?
It's a creative economy. It's a creative ecosystem. And there is absolutely a role for government to be involved in making sure that it is sustainable, to making sure that musicians have the resources they need to survive. There are some kind of basic realities of life that are challenging to do if you're going to be an artist, but artists are kind of what make Austin a pretty amazing place.
Absolutely.
In addition to those two, which was literally the week before everything closed, I had the honor of singing myself with Courtney Santana and her group at Parker Jazz Club. We did a Christmas show, or she did a Christmas show, and she invited me on to sing a couple songs with her, which was really fun. And all thanks to Courtney Santana, who is also a District 6 resident in far northwest Austin. So that was a really cool thing. And I do try to at times get out to like Cheer Up Charlie's and other, especially our queer venues, where you get to see some pretty interesting acts and some music.
Absolutely. And as you're leaving, I just want to remind folks that I met you many, many moons ago at a queer space called The Forum, which no longer exists. I think now it's a Nukes sound shop. Yeah. But you were the judge on Karaoke Idol, and I was one of the contestants. And then fast forward like 4 or 5, 6 years after that, I go on to be on The Voice. But we used to sing karaoke together, and so I've always
we did.
singer. So thank you again for being on the show and for all that you're doing at City Hall for us. You're such a great friend to Austin Music, and we really appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nakia, and thanks for supporting the community and everything that you're doing, taking time away from making music yourself in order to support the music for this whole community. And I also encourage everyone, I also do a live show every Friday on Facebook and YouTube called The Clawback, and we also bring on a musician to perform, and we take great pains to make sure that we are paying musicians for their performances and for their art, and we do that on my show every week.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Nakia.
All right. Thanks so much, Councilmember Flanagan. All right. Well, we're going to get our next guest in here. There she is, Ham's own Rachel Blair. Say hello to Councilmember Jimmy Flanagan.
Hi there.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Good to see you. Thanks for
having me. Good to see you.
Kia.
Yeah, you bet. So we're going to get right into it with you. Soon after the cancellation of South by Southwest, Ham began surveying its members. What did you learn from that survey, and how did those responses inform Ham's response to the pandemic?
Right. So it was our last day in the office. We weren't sure that it was going to be our last day, but I told everybody, take your laptops home because who knows what this is going to be like.
Right.
And we're going to follow things over the weekend. So we were sitting in a meeting and we decided, let's just get this survey done. Let's just do it right now. And we sent it out to our members. We built it and we sent it out. And we started out just wanting to know what has happened for you. What are you facing? What do you need? We know that Ham uses data to drive our decision making. And over the next few months, few weeks actually, we had 1,000 responses come in from our members. And yeah, it was the stories, and the people were really courageous and brave about what they told us that they were facing. The aggregate kind of points, if we added it all up and we looked at sort of what the group was telling us, 86% of musicians that responded needed help with paying for housing, so rent or mortgage assistance. 76% needed help getting nutritious food or any kind of food. Wow. 74% needed help with utilities. And then there were things like needing money to go to doctor's appointments, paying for prescriptions, help managing chronic conditions, paying their insurance premiums. So it was shocking, and everybody knows this now, but to see those responses come in, we realized, oh my God, as a group, our musicians' income just evaporated overnight. And wow. When we look at this second quarter kind of the year, Ham musicians lost, or the 1,000 people that responded lost $3.5 million in income. So from the cancellation of South by Southwest, and then pretty much all of their gigs and ways of earning money in Austin. And Austin is, and Texas really, is a place where people play out live a lot. Yeah. And so there are other ways to make money making music, but in terms of the live music scene and venues shutting down and all of that, our musicians just had a total punch to the gut in terms of.
And I was one of those musicians. I literally watched my email with cancellations coming in, and $2,000, $3,000, boom, 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 and it was, I have to say at the time, I was so in shock about the pandemic. And I was so scared about what was going to come next and not knowing what was going to come next. That portion of it, I don't even think that I could really process it at first. I just was like, oh, well, that's an obvious. Of course they're going to cancel that. And then I just went on. And then a few days later, oh no, that's not happening. I've got to contact the band, let the band know, all of these things. So we also saw on our side a lot of musicians who were getting really conflicting information, concerning when things were going to reopen, when is it safe to play live again, especially over the last 2 weeks, really the last week with the news, Governor Abbott, beginning to reopen the state. What recommendations does Ham have on staying safe during the pandemic right now around those things?
Isn't that the essential question? And like everybody else, we're struggling to come up with the perfect answer, and we don't have a perfect answer. All we have is guidance that and first empathy and understanding that we really get that, when you've been out of work and you're self-employed and you've been out of work for a couple of months, it is really, really hard to pass up a paying gig.
Yep.
And I know a lot of friends of mine have been getting offers to go play, and they're calling me and they're saying, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's a really, really tough decision because you need to pay your rent. You need to buy food. You need to buy prescriptions. Maybe you have people who are depending on you and your income. But then you feel like you're risking your life essentially by going out and playing, or you don't quite know, like, what
Absolutely.
information do I have to trust? And so at Ham, we keep going back to the tried and true scientific resources from the CDC and the WHO. And we look at, because we're a healthcare organization. We are encouraging people to be as conservative and as safe as they can possibly be. So that has to do with whether they play out live, or, there are some doctor's appointments that people have scheduled already. And we definitely want people to get the care that they need.
Sure.
If it's an emergency, we want people to get care. If it could be an emergency, we want people to get care. But all of the elective things in life, we're asking people to be as conservative as they can afford to be, while understanding that our musicians are just in a horrible spot of trying to make judgment calls. And it's the definition of a catch-22 is just a lose-lose situation.
Well, I will tell you from my perspective, and what I've been telling musicians in our group is, and we started this, kind of when we came on the scene, but we really kind of started amplifying this message right around the beginning of the South by cancellations. And that is, there's never been a better excuse not to play a free show. And,
well, that's true.
Because there's also never been a worse way to die from exposure. The old joke is, oh, well,
100%.
you can die from exposure if you play free shows for the exposure. And,
that is literally true.
Now is the time to just set the line in the sand and say, you know what? I value myself enough. I value my art enough. I value my family and my safety enough that I won't just come play for anybody for free.
Right.
And let's be honest, the music venues are going to have a harder time, especially the ones that are good actors and do pay musicians a fair wage. They're going to have a harder time even taking risks on bands that don't have a proven draw. So now is the perfect time for all musicians to start building our audiences online so that we can say, I've been doing a weekly show online for the last 4 months, and I've got, 400 people that are watching a week or whatever it is, because those are now the numbers that buyers are going to be interested in, not just your Spotify or your YouTube numbers. They're going to want to know how many people are viewing your live streams. So it's a very interesting time, but musicians watching this at home, don't play free shows.
Well, we're hoping to make the decision a little bit easier, but if Ham members or anybody has not gone to Ham's resource page on our website, please go there. We have, our team is constantly sorting through, hunting, verifying, updating our resource page. Go to myham.org and check it out, because if we can get money in your hands safely through rent assistance, through different types of assistance programs that we offer, but then other folks in the community offer as well. And that can prevent you from having to go out and take a health risk by playing live before you're ready, or before it's a good idea. We'd love for you to take advantage of those resources.
That's really good to hear. And I also want to just add one addendum to this. And there's literally multiple public ways to track this statement of mine. Just about every time that I say don't play free shows, it always comes with the addendum, unless it's Ham Day, because that's the day. It's the day.
Thanks, Nakia.
Well, it's because it's the day that we all do it in solidarity together for the services that Ham provides for us as a community, right? And that to me is an acceptable trade-off, because you do provide so much for our community, and we're so grateful to that. And I'm playing a Ham sponsored show tonight when this is over, as part of National Nurses Week, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nurse Appreciation Day. I think it's part of National Nurses Week, maybe even. Yeah. Y'all are setting up some shows for musicians to play for some of our nurses across the city, and I think that's so cool. I'm super excited. It's a little 30-minute concert, just me and the piano, and I love that you know how important it is to them to provide them that entertainment. But I also love how how important it is to pay the musicians who are doing that. A little honorarium even goes a long way, especially right now. And so we're just super grateful to you for that. I did want to ask you one other question, and that we were talking a lot about the pandemic and the way that this has been financially hard on our musicians. But earlier in the broadcast with Councilmember Flanagan, that one of the things that I brought up was just how hard it could be on our musicians a year from now, when services that are provided to us from folks like Ham, what are we going to do if Ham can't continue to have these fundraisers that you normally have? What will happen? And so one of the things that we have been really trying to get more folks to do is to do some more of these benefit live streams. And I'm really excited about the first one that we're involved with, that I've been helping to produce, that's coming up this Saturday. And our next guest is going to talk a lot about that. But I just wanted to tell you that today I got the first look at Ray Benson performing the Willie Nelson song that he's going to be playing, and I was in tears. It is so moving. So we really hope, if you're watching at home tonight, or you're watching later between now and Saturday, May the 9th, don't forget to tune in. It's going to be live on the Ham page on Facebook. It's going to be live on Visit Austin page. It's going to be on our page. I think ACL Live is going to stream it. It's called Best Seat in the House. And it is their live music edition, because Visit Austin is going to do this in some other ways too. We got Ray Benson, Hayes Carl, Carolyn Wonderland, Kevin Russell, all of these great musicians, Miles Zuniga, Walker Lukens, Gina Chavez, Susanna Chaffel are all going to be there doing the songs of Willie Nelson. And we're going to be taking donations the entire night. We've already started taking donations on some of our pages. So folks at home, please tune into that. Rachel, what is your favorite Willie Nelson song?
Oh, man. So I have to say, yeah, that's a surprise question. So I'm really partial to The Redheaded Stranger, the whole album. And I just, yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick my favorite, but being put on the spot.
That's the record you can play from start to finish.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, no, it's just incredible. I adore it. It gets played around our house all the time. So it's kind of the soundtrack.
And you live here, correct?
I live where?
You live with a musician.
I do, yes. I'm married to a musician. My husband, Shad Blair, is a musician. And boy, he has been dying to get back to work and is getting these gig offers. And he's just like, oh, I can't, right? And I'm like, oof, I don't I don't think so. And it's a heartbreaking. Musicians want to work, and
We do.
musicians miss each other, and they miss playing out and that feedback that people get, from their audiences. And it is just tough. It is a really, really tough dilemma.
It really is, and live streaming will never truly replace that. But we sure as hell are going to try to have a great show on Saturday night.
It's going to be fantastic.
Raising some money for him. Let's get our next guest in here on the screen with you real quick, all the way from across Berkman Drive, right here in the 2-3. Omar Lozano from Visit Austin. He is the music marketing director of Visit Austin, and we're going to pop him into the stream. There he is.
Hey y'all, how's it going?
Good to see you. Look, he's got a Willie Nelson record right there behind him on the other side. Yeah, there you go. And so Omar has been helping kind of put all this stuff together. We're literally building the plane on this show as we're flying it. But it's been a lot of fun and exciting, kind of backward and forward of stuff. So Rachel, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
We will see you and Rini and all of our friends at Ham on Saturday night.
Great.
Talk to you soon. Hi, Omar.
What's up, Nakia? How you doing?
Hi. I am good. I am really, really good. I wanted to get you in here. We were starting to run a little bit late, and so I wanted to start our conversation and get things moving.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the best seat in the house, obviously, which I'm super excited about. I guess I brought this to y'all. It's been almost 2 weeks ago, and
Like a year ago.
Yeah, I know it does. I sent you a text message, and it had a mock-up flyer that I was thinking up in my head, like, how can we raise money for Ham and Sims and these other organizations, and do something fun and really tell the story of Austin's musicians and our music venues in a fun way. And I sent it to you, and you were like, oh, wow, we could do this, but we'd rather do it on this date because it's National Tourism Week.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say to you, National Tourism Week, right? So it involves a lot of public events, celebrating small businesses, but you still want to celebrate small businesses, but obviously you can't really have public events right now. So tell us about how Visit Austin has pivoted to promote our city during this pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you who don't know, Visit Austin's central mission is really to get visitors, tourists, all to come check out our great city and our great community. Hopefully spend a grip of dollars here. Given our current situation, we're not exactly, our goals have to change a little bit. So, with that in mind, we were thinking, how can we continue the conversation about Austin and our great community? How do we get people to visit Austin, even if they're not able to physically do so? So what we kind of came up with, what the team came up with was a Visit Austin from Home campaign. If you go to our Visit Austin website at visitaustin.org, you'll get a good taste of what this is like. Essentially, we've really adapted to be a resource for small businesses, whether you want to know what are your takeout options during this time, how can you support restaurants going through a tough time, what are the top live streams happening. We really created this centralized resource for a lot of these live streams to hopefully have visitors who are interested in Austin as well as locals potentially tune in and see Austin bands playing, hopefully, get some tip options in there.
Yeah.
As well as, all these nonprofits. So really our goal is to keep that conversation about Austin going. That way, as we do see a light towards the end of the tunnel, and when we are able to turn the lights on, we're able to keep Austin top of mind for visitors and groups trying to come in. That way we support the music community and get everything kickstarted as best as we can.
That's so true, man. You guys do such a good job of supporting the music community. I know, full disclosure, I've been hired by Visit Austin to represent Austin in Canada. I've been hired by Visit Austin to perform at I think the very first time you and I did any business together was you hired me to be one of the bands that played during the
Oh, the gay softball.
the gay softball World Series.
Yeah, that
It
was cool.
rained almost the entire week, and hardly anybody got to play. But then the day that we were supposed to play, we actually ended up getting to play inside that tent. So that was super cool. And I think a lot of people don't know that you do that you keep a running list of current, bands that are available, and that you pitch them to these convention clients who are bringing conventions here, or big businesses that are just doing one-off events, or things like the gay softball World Series. You are basically, you'll say to them, hey, we could get you some music, it's really cool. Then they'll say, well, what genres do you have? And you go, well, what do you want? Kind of like
whatever budget you got, we always need some budget.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, we probably hire like anything from like 160 to like 150 bands a year for a number of different projects around the world. So we've been able to take musicians to represent us all around the world, as you've mentioned. I think we the other time we worked together, you were in Vancouver for that other event. But really, it's music is the talk that we talk, and we want to make sure that when we're out telling people about our city, that we have a physical representation of what that sounds and looks.
Did we lose you? There you are. We lost you for a second. Are you still there?
Now I can't hear you, Nakia.
I think we're experiencing.
Let me jump back in real quick, huh?
Technical difficulties. While you're back. All right. While you're doing that, let's get Pat Buckton in here. Pat.
Hey, how are you? I can hear you. Speak up, Nakia, if you
Hello,
want.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Just checking.
We were having some technical difficulties earlier on in the broadcast. Let's get Omar back in here real quick. There we go. Are you there?
Sorry about that. Full disclosure, my sister called me, and she's going to be mad because I didn't answer.
That's what happened.
Well, this is live television, essentially.
Well, let me pop out, and Omar, it's good to see you. I'm so excited. We're talking about all these great things for him and healthcare, because we got something really exciting to share with you guys in just a minute here.
Yeah,
Omar.
Okay, Pat. Omar, I really just want to thank you, really, for jumping in on this Best Seat in the House. We haven't really talked much about it publicly. The other interesting thing about the pandemic is what we've seen is everybody, the way that we even market events has changed, right? And when we were talking about, getting this information to the public and live, there was no real stress on like the announce date or anything, because none of that seems to matter right now. It's all a new kind of way of thinking about things. And so we just kind of announced it kind of quietly over the last 24 hours, and already seeing a large amount of interest in it. Tell us a little bit about the idea behind Best Seat in the House.
Yeah, sure. So we were really thinking about a way that we can bring this Visit Austin from home alive, and given that it's National Travel and Tourism Week, this is like a really great platform that we can shout on and tell people about. But essentially, it's a live stream benefit concert series launch. So we're going to do multiple episodes of these. But essentially, the concept is that it's Austin musicians covering iconic Austin music. So this first episode is going to be revolving around Willie Nelson, given that his birthday was last week. We're really trying to give a big shout out to this guy over here. And really finding the right nonprofit partner to support during this rough time. So kicking it off, we wanted to make sure that we were working with somebody who's on the front lines, supporting musicians' needs during this crazy time. So, Health Alliance of Austin Musicians, HAM, has really been doing that. So we're really, really proud to be partnering with them on this concept and to be able to bring it to life. But it will air Saturday, May 9th on Visit Austin's Facebook page. There's all the info right there. 7 p.m. Central Time. There's going to be some really amazing talent. Ray Benson, Hayes Carl, Carolyn Wonderland, Kevin Russell from Shiny Ribs, Miles Iniger from Fastball, Walker Lukens, Gina Chavez, and it's going to be hosted by y'all's very own Nakia. So we're going to have lots of special guests. Make sure to tune in and have your wallet close. We're really trying to do some good for the community, but also vibe out on our couch. So hopefully you can join us.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about this. You know, for folks watching at home, as Omar said, they're hoping to really, you know, turn this into a regular thing. We've already got some ideas about who we might tribute next, but Visit Austin also is looking at other ways to utilize Best Seat in the House around other things in Austin that we love. And so I would just really tell you to keep your eye on their Facebook page and their website. They're going to be making some more announcements about this stuff soon. One of the things that we get to do, obviously, on this show and on the show we're going to do on Saturday is have some live music. And so I want to bring in our next guest before we get moving. But before we do that, I wanted to bring in Pat Buckta again to say goodbye to Omar and then give us our community update. So Pat, get on in here and thank you again, Omar, for being with us tonight. And thank you for jumping in on this. Yeah, and we will see you very, very soon for the Best Seat in the House, episode 1.
Sounds good.
Good to
take care.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Nakia, it's been great.
Community update time. What do you got for me?
You know, we there's so many things. It feels like we're moving a million miles a minute right now, right? But with all that, we just wanted to take a minute, really, to say thanks to some special people in our community. As you know, as we mentioned earlier, it is Nurse Appreciation Day, and there's so many people just like nurses who have been out there on the front lines of this thing, taking care of us at their own risk. I myself know all about how amazing nurses can be. As you know, I'm a liver transplant recipient, so I spent a lot of my life in the hospital with nurses, you know, really giving me the kind of care that I needed to just heal. And again, there's so many people in our community right now who are out there helping nurses, doctors, EMTs, all the cooks and all the grocery workers, everybody who's, you know, really putting their lives on the line to make sure we're all fed and we're safe and we're healthy. And so one of the great parts of my job is that, you know, every week I get to work with our musicians advisory panel, all these amazing musicians from every genre, every community, and even every council district in Austin. And so we all got to talking a couple of weeks ago, and we thought, what can we do to say thanks to these people who are helping us so much every day? And we came up with something really special and really unique, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys tonight. This is from our Musicians Advisory Panel to all the people on the front lines.
In the darkest of days,
when hope seems lost,
you came through
and showed us what it means to be a hero.
To all the grocery workers, delivery drivers, and cooks.
To all the nurses, doctors, and EMTs.
To all the people on the front lines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For feeding us. For keeping us safe.
And saving our lives.
You help us make the music
that makes Austin.
Love.
Con cariño.
Austin, Texas musicians.
In the darkest of days.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, thanks to our MAP members. And, you know, again, it's just this sense of gratitude. You know, we've been so privileged to be able to serve our community, our musicians community, and our musicians community wanted to take this chance to say thank you to everyone who serves us. So,
yeah, man. And I dedicated my share tonight when I shared this video to my best friend Scott Highsmith, who he's been working at HEB, I think, since he was about 16 years old.
Wow.
Maybe even 15 years old. And I know he loves it. He is out at the Westlake location. He drives out there every day from Northeast Austin. And, you know, he is such a great person. He has such a big heart. And so many of our friends in the music community are also nurses. They're also, you know, EMTs. They're also, you know, grocery workers, or they are, many folks we know drive for Uber and Lyft. So, you know, for those folks watching at home, we really cannot say thank you enough. You know, I can't imagine how hard that has been on them. To face that all the time, you know. And bravo to HEB and these other grocery stores, you know, for really doing the best to protect those folks. And, you know, so it's been a really interesting time that we're living in right now.
It's tough to see all these things happening, and then yet it's also so inspiring to see that, you know, people that we see in our everyday lives, that, you know, the guy down at the grocery store, you might just not think about, and all of a sudden these people are the people that are making our lives work, that are keeping us alive. So it's so inspiring to see all these people serving us right now.
Well, speaking of things that are keeping me alive and inspiring me, I'm going to pull in our musical guest this week, Henry Invisible, the one-man funk band. What's up, Henry?
How you doing? I'm good, man.
Thanks for having me. Henry.
Good. So we're gonna say goodbye to Pat there. Thank you so much for that, Pat. Henry, speaking to that mic for me good and clear so we can get you volume up just a hair.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you go. Even better. Perfect. Henry, you have made an entire career out of being a one-man band. Yes, and you were already doing live streams on the regular before the pandemic. But now, how has your live stream strategy changed at all? Or is it just full funk ahead as usual?
Well, it's definitely full funk ahead. I'm doing 8 live stream shows this week. And I go live Monday through Friday on my page, Facebook, Henry Invisible. But also, I've been invited to do a show in Italy on Sunday to stream live through a funk disco page that they have created. And I've been doing some happy hours. And, you know, quite honestly, I've been super busy. Extremely busy, and grateful for the work, grateful for the gigs. And I guess it all started out with me kind of just staying persistent and doing it every night, you know, Monday through Fridays. Kind of.
Man, I will tell you, long before I knew who you were personally, I knew of you. And I think the first time that I saw you play, I think it was maybe at a thing that Heather Wagner Reed put on for Juice Consulting.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away because, you know, at the time, I think you were billing yourself as Henry and the Invisibles.
That's correct.
And I showed up thinking I was going to see a full band, you know, and then no, it's like you are the entire band. You know, one of the cool things that's happened that I saw on your Facebook, you know, was that you got some love from looked like Bootsy Collins even.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's why I've actually changed the name, because I'm going to be releasing some music under Bootzilla Records this year.
What?
Yes. Yeah. So he found me on Instagram. I drove out to California to audition, and the competition was pretty fierce, but wound up, you know, winning his heart, I guess. And
that is so cool, man.
Super cool. Keeping the funk alive.
That's right. Well, why don't you keep the funk alive for us right now, and give us a song, and any of our remaining guests in the studio will be rocking out with you. Everybody, Henry Invisible live on Night Shift.
Thank you very much for having me, Nakia. Yeah.
y'all. Yeah. Hold on. I just got to know, baby. This is a shout out to everybody, Austin, Texas. You gotta keep on keeping on. Hey. Woo! Yeah. I just got to know, baby. Do you wanna bounce together? I just got to know, baby. Do you wanna bounce together? Yeah. Now, if you tell me so, maybe we could go and do that. Now, if you tell me so, maybe we could go and do that. I wanna take you around the world. Come on now, let's bounce together. Anywhere you wanna go, you just gotta let me know it's you and I. Gonna bounce forever. Now if you tell me so, maybe we could go and do the thing. Now if you tell me so, maybe we could go and do the thing. Yeah. I wanna bounce, baby. All day long bounce. I wanna bounce, baby. All day long bounce. Yeah, come on, y'all. Nah. Tell you the world I wanna see. You're everywhere I got to be. Tell you my dreams will come true. When I bounce with you. La
Henry, you're killing it.
So good.
Thank you, Austin, for the love.
Henry Invisible. I don't even know if we can get him to stop. We don't want him to stop. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. You're such a badass. Play us out, my friend. Play us out. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I didn't mean to go on.
No, please. It's all good, man. That was great. That was great. That was
Brilliant, my friend. That's the
Thanks for
best I've felt in weeks.
Yeah, that was great, Henry. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody that's tuning in. If you want some more of Henry, all you have to do is go to henryinvisible.com. You can follow us at ATX Musicians. You can visit our soon-to-be brand new website at atxmusicians.org or austintexasmusicians.org. Thanks again to everybody for being here. And Henry, seriously, my friend, just keep doing exactly what you're doing because it's bringing so much joy to so many people. We really appreciate it.
Sure will, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
You bet.
Everybody keep on keeping on. All the love.
All the love to you, my friend. All the way from District 6, Henry Invisible. This has been another episode of Night Shift. We really appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We haven't, I don't think we have guests lined up just yet. But if you are a Facebook group member of our Austin, Texas musicians community, tomorrow at 12:30 is another episode of Verse and Chorus, and we're going to be talking about Patreon and Patreon alternatives. What's going on with that? And we're also going to be talking about this music portal or digital music portal or something that City Council member Tovo put into her resolution and is being discussed actively by city staff and City Council and Music Commission. To get a little bit more clarity on that, I did hear from Austin's city staff today about that. I want to talk a little bit more about it. But in the meantime, here's a little preview of Verse and Chorus so you know what we're talking about. This is for our members only in our Facebook group. If you want to find out how to join that, Pat will throw that up for you. The conversation around live streaming and how much should a band or a solo artist be paid to play a live stream.
I quote my normal rate because I've decided that that's what I'm worth.
What can we do in order to portray ourselves to buyers? Like, hey, you love Austin, so you part of that culture is to support Austin artists.
You're not wearing a wig, right? This is your actual.
Well, no, I just got out of the shower, actually.
We will be back in there tomorrow doing this. Oh, wow. Thank you, Chase. I really appreciate that. We're doing our best. As Councilmember Flanagan mentioned earlier, I haven't really had a whole lot of time to work on my own music. I have been dedicating, as my husband can attest to, about 10 plus hours a day to this organization, trying my best to make sure that we are, keeping our seat at the table that we work so hard to get, really taking what our musicians are telling us that they need to our city council folks, to our state folks, and bringing that information out. And, both myself and Pat are just working so hard, and we love y'all. And we really appreciate y'all, and we really appreciate our musicians advisory panelists as well. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.